This podcast is brought to you in partnership with Speak Studios, presented by Delish Hamburgers. Speak Studios is a community-driven studio space where voices from all walks of life can speak and be heard. You can find them on Instagram and Facebook at Speak Studios and at their website, speakpodcasting.com. Speak Studios. Speak and be heard.
Welcome to Building Better Businesses. I'm Kristen Dees, founder of Catalyst Consulting, an agency that helps small businesses and entrepreneurs start, grow, and level up their businesses. This podcast will bring you interviews with experts in all things business related. Have questions for a business attorney? We've got answers. How about your health insurance? Got you covered there too. New episodes coming your way every week. Find us on the podcasting platform of your choice. Welcome to this episode of Building Better Businesses with Catalyst Consulting. My guest today is Tina Nowick from Save the Day Virtual Assistant. Did I get that right?
Save the Day Assistant.
Save the Day Assistant. Oh, so close. I can see your logo in my head. I just couldn't remember. I was like, is there another word in there? And yeah, we met through Polka Dot Powerhouse originally, which is a women's relationship / business networking group. And yeah, you've been helping me out with some VA stuff. So I was like, hey, you would be a good person to have on the show. So thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll just hop right in then. So tell us a little bit about you, the human being. Who's Tina?
That's always such an interesting question.
I know, right?
Yeah. Really thought-provoking. To put it simply, I'm a wife and a mother. I've been with my husband I had to do the calculation, I'll be totally honest. I was like, how long have we been together? About 24 years.
Oh, so nice.
Some people would call us high school sweethearts, although he was out of school when I was a senior. So anyway, we met in high school, bottom line, and we have two lovely children. We have a 21-year-old daughter. She just turned 21. And then we have a 15-year-old son. And of course, they're just the joys of our world. Yep. But it's interesting, though, because we had kids young. So now it's kind of like, our son is 15. So pretty soon we're going to be empty nesters before we know it. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Other than that, who am I? Gosh, I'm also a sister. And let's see, I am not native to Idaho, although I like to claim I have roots here because my mother was born and raised here. So I've always had family here in Idaho, but I was born in Hawaii, raised in San Diego.
Oh, nice. Very sunny. Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're in Boise, right?
Yes.
Boise area. Yeah.
Boise area. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a fun fact about you.
A fun fact. Oh gosh. I should have thought more about this one. Let's see. So I don't know. Some people think this is kind of funny about me, but I am half Asian. That is part of my ethnicity. Although I like to say that I just recently, not too long ago, learned to really love sushi, like real sushi, not just California rolls.
Yeah.
And chopsticks. My sister always says, you have to tell people. And chopsticks are just they're not my jam. So sometimes I will request a fork in the restaurant. So anyway.
Yeah, you got to own that. Sushi is my favorite food. And yeah, the real sushi, I'll eat everything from sashimi to various different rolls, but salmon is my favorite.
I can do salmon. Salmon is really good.
I like salmon. Yep. Yeah, it's too funny. Yeah, I figured out how to learn chopsticks because I didn't start eating sushi until I was, in my 20s, I think. Because I grew up in Oregon and not near the ocean, and it's it wasn't really a thing. But yeah, no, I absolutely love it. It's definitely my favorite food. I could eat sushi many times a week, no problem. But yeah,
me too now.
yeah, that's funny. Good for you, trying new things. So tell us a little bit about how you provide support for business owners and entrepreneurs.
So, through the virtual assistant agency, we really focus in on, we really love women-owned businesses simply because we are a woman-owned business. But we help them with kind of the the daily tasks that typical business owners either don't like to do, don't know how to do very well, and kind of takes them away from the things that they really should be doing as the business owner. So basically we help them to work on their business, not in their business.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. It's very important and very
Mhm.
helpful. So tell us about your background. Like, what's your journey? This is one of my favorite questions, is like the journey from where you started, when you started working, and how you ended up where you are now, having your own VA agency.
So it's kind of funny. Well, okay, so I started out, I always say I was kind of a baby when I started in the corporate world. And I just did one of those, typical, work your way up in the corporate world. It was for a really large insurance agency that most people are familiar with. And I ended up in sort of like a supervisory managerial type of a position. And then just got to that point being a mother and a wife that I didn't want to be married to my career. And I didn't want to be sacrificing my family, especially to get to the next step in the career. So I just took a hard look into the future and was like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. And some people thought I was crazy, and I probably was, but it took a crazy move to just literally walk away from the corporate world. And then I sort of, I would say, floundered a little bit because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Sometimes I say, people always are like, what do I want to do when I grow up and we're in adulthood already? But I knew it was something with business. And so I dabbled in some different things and then found myself in the networking world and network marketing world. And that's where I met all of my polka dot sisters. And then, so leading the local chapter here, I got to hear so many different things from all the, different business owners and struggles, and we would mastermind a lot. And one thing that came up a lot was, the kind of back end tasks that they either were getting caught up in or trying to figure out and learn. And I had, for a little stint while I was finding my next thing, I used to do these types of tasks for my sister and her business. So what I realized is, this is actually a thing. People are virtual assistants or virtual business managers. And so I just got the idea, I could really help a lot of my fellow polka dot sisters or just fellow women business owners that need that type of help in their business. And took on my own clients last year and turned it into an agency before the year ended. So it's kind of my story in a nutshell.
Yeah. No, it's great. I think a lot of people that I talk to, especially like the entrepreneur world, are like, we've done something else before, and then we're like, this isn't quite right, for whatever reason, and then took the skills and experience that we had and invented a job. That's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, I got kind of burnt out on corporate life, so I just invented my own job instead. Like, that was what they're like, oh, okay.
Exactly.
Like, basically what you did. Yeah. You're like, I want to do something different, but I don't know what yet. And then you just kind of stumbled across it and you're like, oh yeah, I could totally do this. So that's great. So how would you describe, so I feel like, for one, virtual assistant has become much more popular probably in the last like year or so. Maybe it's just the circles that I run in where I'm talking to a lot more business owners, but it seems like VA work has kind of exploded, probably with how many people are working remotely. And so, but some people don't really know what it is. So how would you describe what a virtual assistant is, and the girls that are on your team?
So I would say so I think virtual assistant and sometimes personal assistant tends to get mixed up. So we focus not on the business owner's personal life so much. What we focus on is obviously all the things about their business. And then we take things off their hands, such as digital marketing and processes and procedures and integration and client management and very light bookkeeping. So those types of things are there's all kinds of virtual assistants. So tons, because a lot of times they have a specific niche. Like you might have one that's just social media management, and that's it. That's what they do. And then you have ones like like myself, where I kind of had a variety of skills. So I kind of did a range of things. And then that's kind of how I created the agency around it. So we could offer a range of things versus a business owner having to find like, okay, I need to get this person and then this person to do this. And, you know, have so many different people that even they're having to manage, which that in itself is overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I feel like that's pretty accurate too, because I feel like there's a ton of different specialties or kinds of, and really just kinds of people. Like, because I think at the bottom of the pay range is more like task driven, like you're just sending them tasks to do. And then as the range increases, then you're getting a higher level of experience or quality, like being able to help with marketing strategy, and helping with the process. And for me, like that was one of the things that was really helpful or having you is just having somebody to like talk through things and be like, what the hell am I even trying to work on right now? Like on our relatively weekly sessions, it's like, okay, what do I need to do? What's happening? What are my focuses? Because they change all the time too. I'm like, this is what I'm working on right now. And then something else will kind of come up and I add things in. So I feel like that's kind of the difference too, where there's people who you're just like firing off a bunch of tasks, like, hey, can you update this? Hey, can you send this out? And then on up the scale kind of adds in some of that extra skill capability or critical thinking that's not the word. I mean, I don't mean it in a derogatory way, but somebody that can like do the things for you, more of a full on like assistant person. So,
right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy because there are, like you said, there's people who just know how to do things and other people don't know how to do them. And that's essentially how we both have jobs or careers. It's because it's like, I know how to do these things that other people don't. And it's like, here you go. Let me help you with that. I'll find the people for you, or I'll show you where the resources are, or tell you how to put your stuff in order, like, et cetera. So, yeah. So on that, many business owners and entrepreneurs have a hard time letting go and trusting someone else with their business. I know this is news to you, Tina. Just if you need a minute to process. Yeah. Even me, like I was like, okay, I know I need to let this. And I was like, man, this is really, I have to do all these things because I'm so important. But anyway, so I digress. So people that have a hard time letting go, what advice do you have for them, or what do you kind of help people with when it comes to that piece of it?
So this is so good because one of the things that I like to share now is that I also practice what I preach, and I as well use my own virtual, my own virtual assistants in the agency to do the things that technically I shouldn't be focusing on anymore, right? So and was that hard? Yes, to let go of some of the things where I'm like, but I do it best. Because there are some things that, it's not that I don't know how to do it, but I just shouldn't be focusing my time there. So, and that's, I think, because I think it's easier when a business owner, if social media is not their thing, it's not their world, it's a little easier for them to let that go because they're like, here, you take it because I don't even know where to begin with it. But if they're really good, at their social media, or, they're really particular about how they want things to look, it's hard. And I think it's basically, you just have to do it. There's no like real easy way. It just has to be done, and know that the transition is going to be a transition. Like it's not going to be perfect as soon as the business owner lets go of everything. But that's where I like with the way we do our agency is that's where I'm like the go-between. So it's not that this business owner is having to, talk to someone who doesn't necessarily have business experience. They're just really good at the particular task that we're having them do, or the project, whatever it is. So that's kind of where I feel like the value of this agency is a little bit different, in that I do play that middleman role and am able to kind of help the business owner so that we can figure out what do they need, what does it need to look like, and then have the right person do it for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and how about when it comes to figuring out what tasks they can get help with? Because like that, I think is some of it too. Like I help people with that quite a bit, where they're like, I need help. I just don't know what can I get rid of? Like I have so many things. So, yeah. How do you kind of help people, or what advice would you give people for figuring out what they can actually give away and what they can get help with?
So I always tell them to basically kind of brain dump and write down the things that don't require them. So, there are things obviously like meeting with a potential client, they have to do. That's not something they can pass off to someone else. So the things like those that they have to be involved with is a separate, entirely separate thing. And then so the list isn't like, what do you want to have someone else do, or what, would be nice? It's what do you not have to do? What does not require you? And then we also compare to what our agency offers, because our agency doesn't offer everything sometimes that a person is looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Because I do something kind of like where it's like, write down all the things that you're good at, write down all the things that you enjoy, and then write down all the things that you're not great at and the things that you hate, and then go from there. Like that kind of gives you a little bit of a framework for the things that you can be like, oh, okay, well, I really hate doing this. It has to get done at some point. I'm probably doing a half-assed job of it, if I'm being honest. Like there's a lot of stuff where I'm like, man, I just need someone else should do this for me. And I think when you start working with someone regularly, because like you said, it takes a little while, like the first, a few weeks or a month or whatever of working together, you kind of like figure out what's going on. And then they start realizing like all the things that they can help you with. And I think that's nice too. Like once you start the relationship, like you said, you'll start figuring out how it works and shifting things around and what other things you can get help with, which is nice.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So when it comes to working with a VA, what common misconceptions do you hear from people? Like, what do people think it is that maybe it's not?
So I think probably the biggest thing, there's two, but I would say the biggest thing is it's called virtual assistant because we aren't required to be in person anywhere. And so sometimes a business owner, they might think, oh, can you go pick up, something from, the print store or something along those lines. So we're definitely not errand runners. And there are different type of assistants for that as well. So there are those. But we are specifically virtual for a reason, because any of the work that we do needs to be able to be done remotely. So I think that's probably the biggest one.
Okay. What was the other one?
Well, the other one I was going to say is that it also, I think some people so there are different types of VAs like we talked about before. So my agency is a specific type of one. There are ones where they're more like they might need more like an assistant that's like side by side with them. So it's really their assistant for, all of their needs. Kind of, it might even be that same day, that same moment. It's someone who works that closely with them that they can rely on them at almost at any given time. And that is that virtual assistant, that's their client. So they don't take on, tons of different clients. They just focus on the one, and that's their full-time gig, however they determine that. So I think that's the biggest difference between someone understanding how an agency runs, where, we kind of run on a weekly project basis. It's not, we can't just, on the drop of the dime be like, yes, we can put out a fire here and a fire there. It's not how we operate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Because I actually have a couple of clients that have assistants now. And that was one of the things, like having the person in the office or available locally to be able to do things. And that's their whole job. So they're not taking other clients or anything like that in the meantime. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So if someone is considering hiring VA support, what do they need to know? Like, how do they find one? How do they know it's a good fit? Yada, yada.
I would make sure that you're having what I call, and most of them I think call a discovery call, which can be done remotely, through Zoom. That's what you and I did. And I actually talked to a couple of them that were interviewing different people. I do think it should be an interview process, and figuring out if it is the right fit. Like I said, there's so many different variations of what a VA can do, what that can look like, and every business, might need something different. So it's asking those questions of basically what do they need, and yeah, just coming to the determination. I mean, there's definitely people I've said, no, you probably need more, like we were talking about, like a personal VA than what our agency offers, and I'm willing to let those people know honestly, because I don't want to not provide what they're looking for. So, yeah. So I think if maybe a business owner is interviewing someone and they're just saying yes, yes, yes to everything, they might be saying yes to more than, more than they can do. I'm super honest with what we don't do. Like we're not graphic designers, we're not web designers, but
Mm-hmm.
there's Canva. So
Yeah.
yes. So I would just say it takes an interview process and talk to more than one. And ask just their maybe even references,
Mm-hmm.
current clients.
Yeah. Or maybe samples of work, depending on, especially if it's social media, like you should be able to get previous or current clients that the VA has worked on and that you could like go
Mhm.
see what they do.
Yep.
Because that's kind of tough too, like doing social media for someone else. Because I did that with my agency for a while, and I still have social media consultants that help me with stuff occasionally. But yeah, trying to do someone else's social media can be tough because it can also be really dry. And that's the thing that's hard for people is like finding the good mix of like having the personal you content, you on video, your face, selfies, whatever it is, like something that's you, because that's the stuff that people really connect with. And it can be tough. Like you can make graphics for stuff and post articles for things, and it can be really challenging. So if you can take a look at what someone's done, then I feel like that's a good indicator too. Spelling errors, like that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Like
Yes.
what kind of pictures are they using? Are they using any pictures? Is it just like the same thing over and over again? Yeah. So no, that's what I did. I did interview. I do that for pretty much everything that I hire for now is multiple interviews, preferably on Zoom, because then you can see the person,
Mhm.
But yeah, referrals are great. That was how I found you. And that's how I actually found my consultants too, is like, hey, does anybody know anybody that does this? And then I talked to a few people and there you go. But
Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, I
Exactly.
think if you've done the brain dump or whatever it is that like to kind of formulate what you actually need help with, I think you have to do that part first because
Right.
if you don't know and you're not super clear about what you need help with, then that's where you kind of get into a situation where you're frustrated, the VA's frustrated because they're like, you said this is what you wanted, and you're like, but that's not exactly what I wanted. So I
Right.
think doing the legwork up front is important because then you got to be clear first. So you work with a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurs. And so far, what are the most common things that people ask you for help with, like you and your team?
Well, so as we were talking about, like social media management, digital marketing, meaning like newsletters and maybe blog articles, marketing, material creation, client management, sometimes just setting up systems and processes for them, really light bookkeeping, like invoicing more so than anything
Mm,
else.
okay.
Um, let's see, what else? A lot of like research projects. That's one thing that I realize a lot of times what ends up happening is just kind of just some research on things for the business owner as well. That's a big one. Um, I think that's the main things.
Hmm.
So there's always kind of like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, depending on what it is in the client and their business, their type of business.
Yeah, so when it comes to the client management stuff, because this is a pretty common thing that I help people with as well. What do you kind of see that people are maybe missing on, or that they're needing the help with, if that makes sense? Because it's so important to manage like your pipeline, your contacts, your existing clients, past clients, and all that. So like, what do you see people kind of missing on sometimes that you help with?
The biggest thing is setting one up.
Mm,
So a lot of
mhm,
times I have clients that don't even they might have a spreadsheet, but they just don't have, or maybe they have it all in something like maybe like a MailChimp where it's just a very specific type of, system where they've been just adding contacts in there. So the biggest thing, and that's usually what stops people, right? It's the start that stops people. So just getting it set up, but also even prior to that, that's one of the things that we've been doing research for them on is like, what is the right client management system for you and your business? And usually that is probably one of their biggest hangups too. But
mhm.
then after that, if they have one set up, they probably haven't touched it much because they don't have the automation set up, or they don't even know where to start with that. Because a lot of people, most people, most business owners aren't super into like the technical piece of things, right? They're usually good at whatever they're good at that has been growing their business, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest piece.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah. Cause I feel like unless you already have some sort of like technical experience or know-how from whatever it is that you're doing, or if you're in that type of a business, then yeah, I feel like for me too, I run into that a lot. Most of my clients are like, oh God, what's a CRM?
Mm-hmm.
Please God help me. um, and yeah,
There's
like
so many.
yeah, exactly. It's like, what, I have to do something. Cause I think everybody knows the old saying that money's in the follow-up, right? So if you're not
Mhm.
connecting with people and staying in touch, that's something that I struggle with. Like I meet a ton of people. I love connecting with people. I love networking, building relationships, and I'm not always good at the follow-up management stuff. And I get in this like cycle of feeling like I have to talk to everybody all the time again, that's a lot. Like I could do that probably full time, just like talk to all the people that I've talked to in the last like 2 years. But yeah, so that for me, I think we worked through some of that stuff too, and you guys have helped me where I'm like, I just need to know what the options are and
Mhm.
what's the cost difference? Is there one? And what are the feature differences? And that will help me kind of
Mhm.
decide. I just don't have time to like sit there and poke around a bunch of different websites to find whatever the platform is that I'm looking for. So that's
Right.
super helpful. Because that's something I do the same thing too. I'm like, well, here's the things that you need. Here's what I know. Let me go dig in and find these options for you. And here's the different choices we have based on where you're at. Some people, an Excel spreadsheet is fine because they're not talking about hundreds or thousands of contacts. They're managing a fairly small pipeline or a fairly small client load. So they can do something like that, where having a larger like actual CRM platform can be too much. Like it's too much for them to
Mhm.
manage, as opposed to
True.
just having the contacts, keeping everything together, setting yourself some follow-up dates to check in with people. So
Mhm.
yeah, because there's so many different systems. Like you said, MailChimp, or even something like send out cards, or what's now Mailbox Power. Like some
Yeah.
people that's kind of their CRM because that's where they put people and they're good at like sending out stuff, but it's not the same as like a real CRM. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And there really isn't, I think also the struggle I've found is there just really isn't an all-inclusive one for
yeah,
any one business. It's
yeah.
really a combination of ones, and that makes it tough, especially if they're like, "Okay, you want me to now use more than one," versus
Mhm.
I don't even have one in place yet. So
Yeah.
that's where kind of peace of mind if they have us, we're like, "No, we'll help you with that."
Yeah. Yeah, one of my dreams is to have somebody build me the system that I want. Like I want a CRM that works the way I want it to, that has manageable workflows and pipelines, and then has invoicing and contracts. Because there's even, like HoneyBook is great for some of that stuff, but it is not a good CRM at all.
Yeah.
It's like
Mm-mm.
the contact information, like stuff to just integrate. I'm like, there's so many options for stuff.
Mhm.
I've tried, I can't even tell you how many different systems before I find ones that I like, because it just takes time sometimes. So,
Yep.
um, yeah, God, CRMs are important. People take that
Yes.
away from this. Keep track of who you're talking to and when and why.
Yes, because
um,
the bigger your list gets, the more tough that project is to tackle.
yes, it is indeed. Or trying to like collect data from different places. Like I help on a real estate team, and the data for real estate is bizarre. Like some of the larger companies don't have a very good like data system, and so trying to like collect all the things. It's like, here's the clients that we've helped here, they have an actual closed deal. Here's the ones that we would like to talk to. Here's all the leads that we get, and then keeping track of transactions and sales and all of that stuff is a whole nother mess.
Mhm.
So trying to like collect the data is just exhausting. You're like, but wait, what do we need? Birthdays? Oh my God. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, where do I put those? So, so yeah, as a business owner, what advice would you give to people when it comes to running and or starting their businesses?
Running and or starting. I would say that, well, number one, just do it. I think that there's so often that there's that, famous analysis paralysis. I mean, you get so caught up in all the things that you just don't start. And I almost, in the beginning was almost to that point, like, oh my gosh, there's so many things to do. I don't even know where to begin. But I'm pretty task oriented, so I'm in list and task oriented. So I just kind of tackled it that way. But I do think that one of the things that would have been super helpful for me that I didn't have, and I think most people should have, is some sort of like you, a business consultant, a mentor maybe that has gone down that same path, someone to sort of help them and guide them. And I don't know. I mean, it could be a coach, but a very specific type of coach as far as their industry, because you definitely need to do the mind work, obviously, but there's also like you have to actually do the things to get it going, like the physical things that need to be done. So, and there's just, like for me, I didn't have any sort of resource I could go to, there wasn't something that I could find that said, this is how you do all the things. And these, here's the list. So,
yep. Yeah. Cause it's like you said, just do it and you'll figure it out. Cause it'll change. There's no such thing as a perfect plan. There's no, like, if you wait to be ready, then you'll never be ready. It'll just never be good enough. So just go do the thing.
yes.
But yeah, no, I agree. There's so much information that's out there. It's just like even with social media stuff, right? Like helping people with that. It's so overwhelming for people they're like, do I have to have a Twitter? And I'm like, no, it's fine. Like, let's start with Facebook. It's okay. Like we'll get there at some point, but, there's so much information and it's all different. And then if you're like, what are hashtags and how should I use them? There's a million different answers and strategies on how to do that. Like, it's like, just do a thing and it'll be fine. Like it'll be okay. But, yeah, that's one of the biggest things really is kind of how I invented my job, was like, people really don't know and they're overwhelmed. Or they started a business that was maybe like a side hustle or a hobby. And then they're like, oh crap, now I have a real business. Like, what am I supposed to do with my money? Like, where does my money go? I'm like, well, okay. Okay, let's start here. But yeah, they're like doing a thing and they're passionate about something and it's fine. Like, honestly, it's fine. Like you can fix almost anything. The IRS is probably not going to put you in jail, probably, unless you're like deliberately like not doing stuff. Like it'll be okay. You can find a CPA at some point. It's all right. But it's just, there's so many things, like you said, like when you're trying to figure out like, God, I have to do, but to do that, I have to do these 6 things first. And then to do those, I have to find this person to talk to. You're like, oh my God. 3 weeks later, you're in the fetal position. Like, what was I thinking? So
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not for the faint of heart. So it's not
No.
to say that even when you figure those things out, it's not like it's easy.
No. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's just the overwhelm in the beginning that can just really deter someone. It's like, no, just do it.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody the other day about finding other business owners, because him and his wife have started a business. I guess it's been going for about a year, like probably right around the time quarantine happened. And he's like, yeah, it's just hard to talk to. Like, we have really good friends. We have our best friends that we hang out with regularly, but they just don't understand what is. They're just like, oh, you've sold like 60. Okay. And he's like, they just don't get what we're talking about. And they're just not excited in the same way. And I was like, oh yeah, you just have to like find other business owners, like go network, go find groups that you can join, your local, whatever, Rotary, doesn't really matter. Like there are tons of networking clubs locally and otherwise. So anyway, but yeah, no, I think that's a good call out too, because it's find people who understand what you're going through, and that will help, because then you'll find somebody that, like you said, a mentor or consultant or coach or somebody that can help you figure some of that stuff out and be like, oh yeah, this is how you do that. And you're like, oh, thank God. Okay.
Yes. And I think that's where, us being connected through Polka Dot has been huge. I mean, just having that group of women around, like being surrounded really all the time by other small business owners or, women that are just, entrepreneurs in general, super helpful. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's even, you get this like different type of encouragement too. Like if you say something like, I want to do 6 figures, people are like, oh, that seems like a lot. But if you're talking to other business, they're like, hell yeah. Like, what can I do to help you? That's awesome. Like, how are you going to do that? What's your plan? And if you're like, I don't know yet, they're like, hell yeah, go get it. It's like that's been one of my favorite things about Polka Dot. I tell people that all the time. I'm like, if you ever want to feel like the badass that you actually are, go find yourself a group of really supportive women, and they will be like, yes, get it, girl. Like,
absolutely.
It's amazing. So yeah, it's a good little chunk there. But yeah,
Shout out to
yeah. Shout out to Polka Dot. Shannon Crotty is amazing.
Right.
She really is too. But
Mhm.
so yeah, so you kind of touched on it a little bit. I was going to ask what resources you wish you'd known about, and you kind of touched on mentor / coach, something like that. Was there anything else you can think of that would have been helpful for you?
I think because I'm in the midst of, starting a course myself, I think it would have been nice if there was some sort of where I could be like, how do I start my own VA agency? There was some sort of course that was very specific to, the different things that you need to think about and the things you'll come across. I just, if there was something like that for everything, every business that you start, that would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Even just basics, like the basics of, is it an LLC versus, a corporation? And then how do you register in your state and,
Mm-hmm.
all of that stuff. So there's so much. And then how do you, if you are going to be hiring people on or contracting people on, what are some ways to go about that? So, I mean, I have used so many skills. I think I'm so grateful for, even though I didn't love the corporate world, I am always forever grateful for the skills that I gained from that time, because I use all of them in, my business now in some way or another. So yeah, I don't regret that time at all.
Yeah, me too. Without all of that,
Yeah,
I mean,
without
I've interviewed hundreds of people, thousands of people, maybe. I don't even know. Because I used to do big box retail. So I've definitely interviewed a lot of people. And
Yep.
those things help me now, help my clients, because they don't. Like, some of them have literally never interviewed anyone. And they're like, I don't even know what
Mhm.
I'm supposed to look for in an application. So,
Yep.
but yeah, I was going to say too, you were talking about the resources and stuff. So I don't know if you know about this, and it's a good plug anyway for everybody else, but the Small Business Development Center has chapters everywhere. I don't know what the number is. I think it's a few hundred. So if you're anywhere near any kind of like metro or even a larger city, there's probably a small business development center near you, and they have people that can help you with a lot of that stuff. So like the one that's here, there's a guy who he was in banking for 35 years and helped small business owners with like business planning and how to prepare a business plan in order to get a loan approved, and how to find grants, and which ones you're like, I could apply for something as a female business owner, or minority owned businesses, like all those kinds of things. So there's those people are free resources, and they're available all over the country. If you go to sbdc.org, and then you can find your local, whoever's closest to you. Everybody that I've talked to has always been super helpful. I'm actually going to have a few people from the Washington SBDC on here for different things. Hopefully that would be amazing.
Nice.
But yeah, so just there, I mean, there are some people out there that can help too, but it's hard to know where to start. Like, I just stumbled across that. Somebody, through the course of me like networking and meeting people, somebody told me about them. And so I went and met with them and talked to them, and I was like, oh, this is super helpful. Like, oh my God. And each person kind of has a different experience and expertise. So yeah, it's pretty great.
I'm glad you brought that up, because even here, so there is, I think it's the same thing. It's through the college here, Boise
Yeah,
State,
probably.
something.
Yeah.
And then also we have a woman here locally that started a nonprofit. I think there's like 2 different like locations of it, but it's a women's, it's a free resource for women business owners. And that has been another one that has actually been huge for our local women business owners. Yeah, just free resources because they're a nonprofit. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that has been coming up more and more in my networking world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's probably through like Boise State, because the chapter here, I don't know if it's office, branch, whatever it's called, is partially funded by Washington State. I'm pretty sure Washington State University.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of it comes from like grants and stuff, like how they get funded. But yeah, so it's usually attached to, I think, a college or some sort of other like organization that's like that. I think the one in Coeur d'Alene is through North Idaho College. But yeah, it's great, and they're super helpful, and they love helping people. They're like, I already have a career and I like doing this too. So
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
And I figured that out after I had pretty much already done things. So
same.
in fact,
Yep.
I was offered a free website through the women's one after I already paid for my website. I was like, oh, well,
Yeah.
I'll
That
just
would
share
have
it with
been,
other people.
yep, that would have been good to know. Yeah, because they have like e-learnings and courses and stuff on there. They have one for like business plans and stuff, like everything you can imagine. And it's all just like, yeah, go on there and figure it out from people who actually legit like know what they're doing, they know what they're talking
Yeah.
about. So yeah. Cool. Well, tell us how we can best support you. What are you working on? Can we help spread the word for you about anything? You have any cool projects you want to talk about?
Well, I guess I have my course that's really in the early stages, so probably not quite ready yet to really have anyone help me share that. Um, I think I don't know that I really need help with anything. I mean, I always love obviously talking, having a discovery call with a business owner to see if we're the right fit, as an agency. I mean, our goal is really to help people. Um, so yeah, I mean, I guess of course, we're always open to that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I always like clients. Yeah. How do people get in touch with you?
Oh, so well, you could either go to my website, save the day assistant.com. Also my Facebook page, it's Tina Leilani Nowick is another one. Or I also have Save the Day Assistant Facebook page. I mean, all the social
Yeah.
media platforms.
All the social media stalking.
Yeah.
Excellent. Perfect.
Whatever their choice.
Do you have anything else that you thought of in the meantime before we head off?
I don't think so. I just appreciate you having me on here. It's always fun to get a little outside my comfort zone and do another podcast. And yours are really cool.
You just did your first one, right? Like not that long ago?
Actually, you know what? I did one, I think it was last year sometime, but they've kind of like progressively been a little different, a little bigger, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so thanks.
Very cool. Well, thank you for being here. And yeah, if you guys need some help, talk to Tina. She knows what's up.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.